Ibn Arabi is often credited with spreading the notion of Wahdat al-Wujud, mainly because his ontology closely aligns with the notion of the perfect human, which requires a comprehensive exploration of the realm of Wujud. Quote, "The two presences, servanthood and lordship, face each other like similar things, because there is no distinction between the two kinds. However, similar things are opposites, for the two similar things do not join. There is only the one which is distinct and the one which is similar. Actually, there is neither a similar thing in existence nor an opposite thing, for existence is one reality, and a thing does not oppose itself." In this episode, we are going to discuss Ibn Arabi's perspective on Wujud and relate it as introduction to our discussion of the perfect human. If you like this video, please give thumbs up. You can also help me out monetarily, but no pressure to do that. Ibn Arabi's understanding of Wujud can be summarized as follows. He perceived the essence of Wujud in a singular sense, where Wujud is ultimately one and can only be attributed to God. Consequently, the existence of the observable world is considered metaphorical, serving as a locus for God's self-manifestation, or Tajalli. However, it would be a mistake to claim that the phenomenal world has no existence at all. Ibn Arabi himself distinguishes between the two levels of Wujud. At the highest level, Wujud represents the absolute reality and is known as the necessary being, denoting al-Haq, which is the only true reality in every aspect. The second, lower level, is where Wujud is seen as the fundamental substance of everything other than God, encompassing the whole cosmos and all that exists within it. This suggests that the essence of God's Wujud is fluid, as it can be seen as both al-Haq, representing the essence of all phenomena, and as al-Khalq, creation, when viewed as the manifestations of that essence. Ibn Arabi categorizes the attributes of Wujud into three distinct categories. First, there is Wujud that exists inherently and independently for all eternity, which is the necessary being referred to as al-Haq. This necessary being is the origin and creator of everything. Second, there is Wujud that derives from al-Haq, which is a dependent Wujud and has no existence on its own. Examples of this include the throne, the chair, heaven, earth, and all their contents. It's worth noting that Ibn Arabi refutes the concept of a temporal sequence between this Wujud and God, as indicated by words like after and before, because God himself is also seen as time itself. This perspective aligns with the prophetic saying, "Do not disdain time, for it is indeed God himself." As a result, the existence of dependent Wujud and God cannot be separated in a chronological sequence, as it would imply that the latter precedes the former, even though dependent Wujud emanates from God. There is a third category of Wujud that divides classification as either Wujud or non-Wujud, as well as temporal or eternal. Similar to the second category in this realm, Wujud cannot be understood in terms of a time sequence. Furthermore, it cannot be defined as wholeness or particular, nor can it be described as excessiveness or deficiency. Quote, "If you say that thing is the cosmos, you are right. Or if you say that it is al-Haq, al-Qadim, you are also right. Or if you wish to say that it is neither the cosmos nor al-Haq, by which you mean that it is an additional meaning, you are also correct. All this may be attributed to it. Such a thing is the very wholeness, the gatherer of the temporal and eternal. It varies with the variety of existences and cannot be divided by division of the existences. However, it can be divided into the division of the perceived things. It is neither existence nor non-existence. It is not the cosmos, but it is the cosmos. It is other, but it is not the other, because the otherness exists only in the two existences." In terms of its characteristics, Ibn Arabi refers the third Wujud as the origin or source of the cosmos. It is named by him the prime matter, the genus of genera, the first substance, the most general wholeness, the reality of the cosmic realities, the beautiful names, the reality of realities, the permanent entities, or the perfect human. Ibn Arabi's classification of Wujud differs from that of philosophers and theologians, who typically divide it into three categories: necessary being, possible being or the cosmos, and impossible being. The difference among these categories are as follows. Necessary being is the reality that ceaselessly must not be, representing an eternal condition where all existence relies on it and it does not depend on anything else. Impossible being is a reality whose existence within the cosmos is impossible, but it may exist in an intellectual realm, either within God or even within the human intellect. Possible being is a reality whose association with existence and non-existence is similar, suggesting a degree of contingency. It is also suggested that Ibn Arabi divides Wujud into two primary categories, namely necessary being and impossible being, while denying the possible or contingent being as a separate, independent kind of being. According to this specific perspective, possible beings are within and integral to the One, as it is the essence of the One that acts as both the subject and the object, or as the necessary being and possible beings simultaneously within the cosmos. In this context, one could argue that Ibn Arabi's worldview of Wahdat al-Wujud, while more ontological in nature, still sounds theological and philosophical. To gain a deeper understanding of Ibn Arabi's notion of Wahdat al-Wujud, it is essential to explore it in the context of his notion of God's self-manifestation, a mystical notion that deals with the manifestation of the One and its relationship to the many. In Ibn Arabi's terminology, the term Tajalli is used interchangeably with Faid, which is similar to the theory of emanation in Neoplatonism. Nonetheless, the underlying idea behind Faid or emanation in Ibn Arabi's thought is notably distinct from the emanation of Plotinus. In Plotinus, emanation signifies a continuous outflow from the ultimate one, whereas for Ibn Arabi it refers to a different appearance and self-determination of al-Haq, whether in actuality or in potentiality. The notion of God's self-manifestation is based upon the famous Hadith Qudsi, "I was a hidden treasure, I love to be known, hence I created the world so that I would be known." This hadith indicates the stage of the hidden treasure, during which al-Haq was still inconceivable, beyond human comprehension and shrouded in mystery. In other words, al-Haq existed alone and the many did not yet even potentially exist. During this stage, it was also impossible to attribute divine names to al-Haq. It is in this state that al-Haq longed to be known by the other, and it is here that God's self-manifestation occurred. Ibn Arabi bases his understanding of such a manifestation on an elucidation of the true nature of al-Haq. According to him, the nature of al-Haq is concealed by the veils of darkness and light, representing the cosmos and the spirit, respectively. Thus, Ibn Arabi posits God's self-manifestation as a dichotomy, the unseen self-manifestation and the sensible self-manifestation. The first type of Tajalli is the manifestation of al-Haq from himself to himself, or in contemporary psychological terms, the emergence of self-consciousness. This emanation actually falls within the third category of Wujud and relates to the veils of the spirit. What initially arises from this emanation is an immaterial entity. It is named inter alia the first intellect, Japan, the greatest element, Muhammadan reality, or the reality of realities. This emanation is also regarded as the illumination of the divine names, whose essential forms are the permanent entities and whose all-embracing name is Allah. At this stage, the permanent entities are in potentiality and not in actuality until the emergence of the second type of Tajalli. For the aforementioned perspective, the first category of emanation is described as preparedness for what is to come, namely the whole cosmos, both unseen and visible. In essence, it serves as the highest mediator because it has access to both Wujud and non-Wujud. As a state of preparedness, the unseen self-manifestation possesses the capacity to actualize the potentialities of the divine names into existence when their recipients are ready for it, whether in terms of spiritual or tangible realization. When this preparedness is met, al-Haq exhibits sensible self-manifestation. Consequently, the sensible self-manifestation is the manifestation of al-Haq into our sensory realm, effectively giving rise to the cosmos and all that it encompasses. It is important to note that the actualization of the divine names is not initiated at the request of al-Haq, but rather at the request of the names themselves. In the context of the Hadith Qudsi about the hidden treasure, it suggests that creatures encompass not only the physical realm, but also the first intellect, the reality of realities, or the divine names, as the Hadith itself alludes to creatures in a comprehensive sense. The preceding elucidation of Ibn Arabi's notion of Wujud and Tajalli helps in understanding Ibn Arabi's concept of the perfect human. As we observed, an attachment for this concept initially emerged in Ibn Arabi's identification of the third category of Wujud, which he referred to as the permanent entities, the preserved tablet, the reality of realities, the perfect human, or the real Adam. This perfect human is a being who cannot be attributed to either Wujud or non-Wujud, and falls within the realm of the veils of light or spirit, as explained in Ibn Arabi's notion of the unseen self-manifestation. However, it's important to note that this depiction of the perfect human is not the sole category in Ibn Arabi's doctrine. There are other manifestations of the perfect human, for example, the cosmos as the perfect human and the human being itself. On the cosmic level, the perfect human is perceived as the big human, which represents the whole cosmos. It's essential to understand that this category alludes to the perfect human because its contents mirror the potentialities of all the divine names. Therefore, the cosmos achieves perfection in its wholeness when all its elements are wholly integrated. Conversely, individual worldly elements cannot be labeled as the perfect human if they are separated from the whole, as no single element can encompass all the properties of the divine names. Quote, "You should know that God characterized himself as the outward and the inward and brought the world into existence into forms unseen and visible, so that we might perceive the inward through the unseen things in ourselves and the outward through the visible things in ourselves." God describes himself as a mystery possessing both the names the inward and the outward, which he utilized to create both the unseen world and the sensible world. In line with the Hadith Qudsi, where God expresses love to be known by his creatures, Ibn Arabi argues that God seeks to have a creature capable of comprehending both aspects of God. The perfect human mentioned earlier, representing the first intellect and the cosmos, do not completely fulfill this criterion. The first intellect, or which is called with other names like Muhammadan reality, does not comprehend God in his sensible manifestation, while the cosmos does not comprehend God in his unseen manifestation. Therefore, there needs to be a locus that can integrate both his divine presence and God's cosmic presence. This creature is none other than the perfect human as the entirety of humankind, or it is in the context of human as species, whose existence is primarily attributed to the personal name Adam. Quote, "Indeed, God epitomized this cosmic world comprehensively into one single creature who embodies the complete meaning of the world, and he named this creature Adam. And God said that he created him in his image. Hence, humankind constitutes the comprehensive world, where he then is called the small human, and the cosmic world is the big human." In this context, Ibn Arabi offers two significant points into the personality of the perfect human. Firstly, he states that the perfect human is the only creature created by the hand of God, as mentioned in the Quranic verse, "What has prevented thee from prostrating unto that which I created with my two hands?" This verse indicates that the essence of Adam was formed from both divine and cosmic elements, symbolized by the two hands of God. Secondly, Ibn Arabi emphasizes that the perfect human serves as the mediator between God and the cosmos. This role makes the perfect human a repository of absolute perfection in both the temporal and the eternal world. It's important to note that this mediation is possible because, in Ibn Arabi's perspective, God possesses absolute perfection solely in the eternal sense, while the cosmos attains perfection only in the temporal sense. Quote, and the human being has two kinds of perfection. The first is addressed to the divine presence and the second to the cosmic presence. Hence, he seems to be the mediator between the cosmos and God and the gatherer of the created beings and the creator. He becomes the line which separates between the divine and cosmic presences, just like the line which separates the dark and the sun. And this is his essence. Thus, the human being has an absolute perfection in temporality and eternity. In the case of al-Haq, he has absolute perfection only in eternity and has no access to such perfection in temporal matters. He is beyond such things. Meanwhile, the cosmos has absolute perfection in temporality and no access to such perfection in eternity. The cosmos can never have it. Therefore, the human being becomes the gatherer. In another episode concerning the perfect human, we have noted that the perfect human exists on two levels, namely the cosmic level and individual level. Here we expand it into four categories. The first perspective pertains to the cosmic level, where human is viewed as a cosmic entity. In more straightforward terms, this level deals with the entire humankind, considering human as a species rather than focusing on individual persons. On this cosmic level, human symbolizes the most perfect existence in the world, embodying the imago Dei, which signifies the form or image of God. The second perspective of human pertains to the level of the metaphysical cosmos or concerning the unseen world, as we've discussed earlier. This is the one which cannot be attributed to either Wujud or non-Wujud and belongs to the veils of light or spirit, as expressed in Ibn Arabi's conception of the unseen self-manifestation. The third perspective pertains to the whole cosmos itself, since the cosmos as a whole is similar to the human being. Thus, in this context, the cosmos is called the big human. Nonetheless, it must be as a whole, and if it is understood as a separate entities, it cannot be said to be the perfect human. The fourth perspective pertains to the individual level, where not all individuals possess the same degree of perfection. In this context, there is a spectrum of varying levels of perfection among human beings. Only a few exceptional persons can genuinely be called the perfect human, while most individuals do not measure up to this ideal. And we will discuss this last level in another episode. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.